That's got to be one of the oldest horsemanship phrases that ever got thrown out there, and people are still having a little trouble understanding it sometimes. So make the wrong thing difficult and make the right thing easy. And people are doing the opposite sometimes. They're making the right thing difficult and the wrong thing too easy for the horse. So the horse tries the wrong thing, works out well for him. He thinks it's the right thing. No problem for the horse. Human says, oh, the problem, my horse's problem is this, my horse's problem is that. No, it's not. It's no problem for him at all. It's his solution. Your problem, his solution. Some horses block up, they freeze, they don't move anymore. And sometimes people have desensitized the horses to the legs. So they've kept the legs on too often. Now the horse is not moving forwards off leg pressure. So they're putting the leg on and then nothing's happening. They need to resensitize. You need to get the horse light to leg pressure. Go means go. These are non-negotiables. You can't negotiate on these things. Go and stop. You don't negotiate on go and stop. If you have a little, well, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you could get into a nasty situation. So it works all the time. Go means go, woe means woe, and we don't negotiate about those things. Those two there, go and woe, they are conditioned with a lot of precision. I happen to have a half horse, half zebra here. She has a good stop. Why did I put a good stop on her? Because I like showing off good stops? No, because I sometimes really need to stop on her. If she gets frightened, I need my stop to be more important than her fright. If she gets worried, I need my stop to be more important than her fright. So stop means stop, and we don't discuss that. That's a non-negotiable thing. And it's conditioned with precision. Now, if the horse is stopping and not going, it's the same with go. Go is a non-negotiable. When I say seat and legs, we don't discuss it. That means go forward. If there's a fire and I say go, go. Now, I wouldn't do that to the horse. I'm not going to ride the horse into a fire, but if I had to and I put my legs on, I need her to go forward. I need the horse to be so well conditioned that we don't negotiate on these things. Woe means woe. If there's a truck coming down the road and my horse is running off, this is not good for me. So I need stop to be a non-negotiable, and it needs to be conditioned with precision. The only way to do that is to understand the conditioning process. When people say, how does the horse learn to stop? Oh, you pull on his face. Okay, that is not understanding the conditioning process. Understanding the conditioning process is understanding that there's a stimulus, it's mouth pressure, that can be removed by a response, and you condition to stop that, you do this. And it's a highly conditioned response. And these are non-negotiable things. So if the horse is blocking, I would undo one of the legs. I would unblock one of the back legs. Bend the horse, move the hindquarters around, and then go again. Cause being here to be uncomfortable. If the horse, oh, I don't want to go there, that looks dangerous. Okay, stay here, and I'll move your hindquarters around your shoulders for a while, and I'll keep moving your hindquarters around your shoulders. But if you'd like to go over there, you'll find that it's much more pleasant. The horse will rapidly think, okay, I prefer to stay here, but now here is getting uncomfortable. Let me try going over there. Instead of sitting there pushing on the horse and whipping, and the horse is going, that looks dangerous over there. And now you start whipping, and he goes, yep, I was right, terribly dangerous over there. And then suddenly you spin around, take off, go home. So say he stops, okay, that's fine, but we're going to move our hindquarters around here for a while, and it's going to get a little bit uncomfortable. And the horse, okay, I think, let's go over there, it's probably better. Did I have a good response from the legs in the first place? When I put my legs on, was the horse moving forwards off that pressure, or was I getting some sort of, nah, not really important? And do I know how to train good forward response? Put the legs on, use a whip if need be. Oh, but I wouldn't whip the horse. No, I'm not talking about giving him a great big whack with the whip. I'm talking about using it correctly. Using it with rhythm, increasing the rhythm. When he goes forward, it removed. Making the wrong thing uncomfortable, making the right thing easy. Talked about freezing, pulling back. That's a classic old problem. Teach the horse to walk forward from halter pressure. But in any situation and all the time, if halter pressure comes on suddenly, pressure on the halter means feet go forward. It needs to be conditioned. It's not natural for a horse to do that. If you put a halter on a foal and you pull the foal forward, he'll go backwards. He'll probably flip over even. So halter responses aren't natural. They need to be conditioned. Horses that pull back, halter response wasn't well conditioned. And that's about all there is to it. You need to redo it, recondition the halter response, and cause the horse to understand that when there's pressure on the halter, the feet go forward. That's what removes the pressure. If the horse doesn't understand it, you're going to have pullback problems and other problems. Grooming, clipping, spraying the horse with fly spray, needles, all these things, it's a negative reinforcement problem. People are brushing the horse, he kicks and the brush moves away. Bad mistake, now the horse has learned to kick. You're needling the horse, you put the needle on, the horse reacts, defends, rears, strikes, does other things, the needle goes away. Now we need to retrain the response. You could do it with a pen or a key or something, put the pressure on, get the horse to do a head lowering response, for example, and then remove the stimulus. Teach the horse that the defense isn't the good solution, that won't remove the pressure, but this solution, why not replace rearing and striking with head lowering? Why not counter condition it and say, oh, well, that's what he was doing to remove the pressure from the needles. He was rearing and striking. So I'll counter condition that and I'll replace that with a head lowering response. Stick a pen on the horse's neck, lower the head, remove the pen, stick the pen, lower the head, remove the pen. Pretty soon, stick with the pen, head goes down, remove the pen, needle the horse. There'd be a lot of ways to do that. You could use positive reinforcement, stick the pen, lower the head, give the horse a remove the pen, so using negative reinforcement, and add some carrots. So using negative reinforcement, the removal of the needle, the pen, and positive reinforcement, adding some carrots, apples, or whatever little treats the horse might like. There would be ways. What other things go wrong with the clippers and all of those sort of things? Is the horse associating the clippers with comfort, or is he associating the clippers with things are going to go really bad now? So I would get an electric toothbrush, start it up, rub the horse all over with the electric toothbrush while I'm giving him a couple of carrots, scratch, scratch, scratch at the same time, get the horse thinking, wow, this whole clipping process, it's just wonderful. Scratches and carrots, and this is about the best hour you can spend. Or would you get in there and start trying to put the clippers on and start yelling when he's moving, hey, stop, oh, la, making all sorts of noise, and then eventually stick a twitch on the horse so you can get it done. And then what's the horse going to think about that? Does the horse think, wow, that whole clipping process, that was just fabulous. I got my nose squeezed up by a piece of rope on it, and then someone started yelling, and someone else tried to pick up one of my legs and take a leg away from me, and then I ended up bumping into the wall, slipping on the cement, and everything went wrong. Don't think I like clipping. So it's all an associative thing. Is the horse associating the situation with pleasure or pain? Is it working out well for him? Is it profiting him or not? Does it profit the horse to go into the trailer? Yes or no? And sometimes, sure, you're going to shut the door, you're going to go for a drive, but he can often go in there and eat some carrots. It could be profiting him. Profit the horse to have the clippers. Oh yeah, scratch, scratch, and nice little scratch, scratch on the withers, and some treats and some good moment. Horse thinks, yeah, that's a good time. That's better than being ridden. I like that. A lot of things with the grooming, just negative reinforcement stuff, removing the brush when the horse is reacting badly. The same thing with the shower, for example. People are putting the shower on the horse is moving. When the horse is moving, they're taking the shower away and correcting, and taking the shower away and correcting, and they're teaching the horse to move. If you're removing the shower when the horse is moving, he's learning to move. So you'd follow the horse. I do that in a round pen here, for example. Follow the horse, keep the shower. When he stops moving away, remove the shower. Cause the horse to think, okay, well, I think moving doesn't work for me, standing still does. And then little by little, keep the shower on him a little bit longer. But don't be teaching the horse to do what you don't want him to do. But you'd have to be aware of what he's learning while he's learning it. If you're not aware, then he might not be learning the right thing. And I happened to see that at a really big competition over here. It was a horse, a legendary horse, just love that horse. And I was watching it with the groom in the shower, and she's trying to shower the horse after a great big competition. He's just done his round, and he's warmed up a fair bit. And she's it's a beautiful stallion, and she's trying to shower the horse. And the timing couldn't have been any worse. The horse would be backing out of the shower and getting into a bit of a fight, and she's dropping the shower and then getting cranky at the horse and bringing him back in, putting the shower on him, and he's backing out, and she's stopping the shower and giving him a bit. And the whole thing was just a debacle. It was all coming undone only because she's probably a very, very good groom. It was a very, very good horse worth millions, and she was getting the timing totally wrong. We should never think that because they're great riders, they're great horsemen. I've been over here too long. I'm aware of that's not necessarily the case at all. They're terrific pilots, but Being a horseman and being a pilot is not the same thing. Being a great rider is not necessarily being a great horseman. If you wanted to be a great horseman, I would encourage you to be a great rider as well. It has to help. But I know plenty of great riders and they're not horsemen. I've put horses in trucks, I've put horses in aeroplanes, I've helped them with rivers, jumping and all sorts of things, problems that they create, and they create amazing problems on amazing horses, but they're just unaware of the learning processes. And we'll talk about that in another video. We have to be aware of the learning processes in order to get them right. I've still got some more problems to go through here. We've talked about horses that shy, and a lot of the shying problems, talk about that for a minute, is that the horse has never learnt to be in the, over here we call it a corridor or the hallway of the horse's, of the rider's legs. The horse has not learnt to stay between the horse's legs. The rider can't push the horse across this way or push the horse across that way, either laterally or just turning, even just basic turning the horse with the outside leg. A lot of riders don't have that. Some riders don't even have good lateral responses, and the horse absolutely isn't between the rider's legs. If the horse is not between the rider's legs, there exists no barriers. So he'll duck off to the side and duck off to the side. The horse needs to be between the rider's legs. In order to do that, the responses, the sideways and the turning responses, need to be taught to the horse. Certainly sideways responses, being able to yield the horse sideways from the outside leg, being able to yield the horse sideways from the outside leg, and having the horse down a straight line because there is a definite barrier on each side. And in front and behind as well, if the horse gets too fast, there's a barrier in front that says, hey, get back here. And if he drops behind and gets a bit cold, gets a bit heavy off the legs, you drive him forward and say, hey, get back in the box. You would never hold the horse in the box. You would just make it uncomfortable for him to leave the box. If he went off to the side, put him back. If he goes off to the side, put him back. If he gets too fast, bring him back in. If he gets too slow, bring him back up. Until you can remove the legs and remove the hands, and the horse learns something that's called self-carriage, and he's holding himself in the box. Self-carriage is probably about the most important element of dressage, of teaching the horse to maintain gait, maintain rhythm without being maintained, without being pushed forward to keep accelerating, without being held back on permanent brakes. Get a lot of that in the show jumping game, is that people are holding the horse back saying, don't go too fast, don't go too fast, don't go too fast, and they run out of brakes. How did that happen? Well, because they were skiing around on the horse's mouth, and when they needed to stop, the mouth was already gone. They lost their brakes. You can't drive from my place to Paris with your foot on the brake and have a brake when you get to Paris. There'll be no brakes left. Dressage riders, same thing. Sometimes just too much too much hand pressure, too much hand, always there, always there, always there, and now it doesn't work anymore. So are we conditioning responses, and are we maintaining the lightness in that conditioning, or are we maybe causing some of those things to fade away? Some of those responses become extinct. They just fade away because we're not being precise about the conditioning. And there's a packet of them here. I've still got more and more. Horses get aggressive because they're confused. People often want, can you fix my horse? He's aggressive. Well, he's become aggressive for a reason. He didn't just get aggressive, and there isn't a magical cure for aggressive. If the horse was better educated, it wouldn't happen. Apathy, sometimes horses get very shut down, very depressed, sad, poor horses. They say they're lovely and quiet, but they're not going so well. How does that happen? Same thing, poorly educated, the education isn't working out. They'd either get defensive or they'll shut down. A lot of people have scary corners in their arenas, and instead of trying to push the horse into scary areas, go and work him somewhere else and then stop him in the scary areas, and you'll certainly find that the scary area becomes much, much less scary, because let's work over here and stop over there and work over here and stop over there, and the scary spot suddenly becomes much less of a scary spot. But if the horse gets to the scary spot and starts getting worried, now you start trying to push him forward and yelling and tapping on him with your whip and all, that's going to make the scary corner so much worse. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. Get a little bit closer every time. Make a few circles, go away, give a bit of work, come back, have a rest. Stick someone over there with a few carrots. He'll start loving that scary corner. Monday might not be a good day, but Wednesday will be a ripper. And he'll start liking those areas. But instead of trying to understand the horse's idea, because the horse saying, that looks pretty dangerous. And if you're saying, oh yeah, don't want to go there, let's go, and start whacking on the horse, you're just confirming what he already thought. The horse said, that looks pretty dangerous. Could be right. Let's go over here. He said, well, that looks like a lot of work. Well, let's go back over there. Maybe it's not as dangerous as we thought. And maybe that's where I might get off my horse for the next few days and cause the horse to think, oh, love that scary corner. Thought it was scary when I was younger, but now I love it. Horses taking off, haven't conditioned your brakes. You need to do that in a safe environment. You need to condition stop and you need to condition go. And they need to be conditioned with precision. And that happens an awful lot. Horses don't have very precisely conditioned brakes. If they don't, trouble is coming. Horses don't have very precisely conditioned accelerators. Now some might say, oh, well, that's not so important. Well, it is, because if you want to go out for a trail ride or something and the horse just stops in front of a little creek or something, you can just turn around and go home. But if you don't have a good response from the legs, you could be there for a while. But if you have really good accelerator, if you say, you know, it doesn't matter what's in front of you, whether it's a cliff or a fire or a bear, if I say go, go. And they need to be conditioned with that much precision. Really highly trained dogs are really highly trained. Really highly trained horses are very much the same. And a lot of horses aren't really highly trained, but everyone could learn to do it. It takes time. Some people say, well, I don't have time to train my horse. Well, if you don't have time to train your horse won't get trained. If you don't have time to educate your horse, you won't be educated. There's nothing much I can do about that. But if you'd like to have a long-term relationship and it all works out really well, I would advise taking the time it takes to educate the animal. Now, if my horse stops in front of a creek or a river or whatever, normally just the fact that I put the legs on and drive the horse forward, he'll go forward because he would know that, okay, that means go forward, and it's a non-negotiable. We don't discuss that. But if the horse started running off to the side or something, I'd get his feet back under control. Now, if the forequarters goes here or here, I've got control of those forequarters. And also, if the forequarters go over here, I've also got control of the hindquarters. I can get them back under control as well. And if things started getting a little bit violent, I'd control the hindquarters because I wouldn't want him to rear up or do anything dangerous. But if I could control his feet, then his feet won't control me and his feet won't be controlled by the environment. And probably many of the problems I'm talking about here, if the horse is really well educated, they're just not going to happen. They're not going to exist. A problem is just like the tip of the iceberg. It's the visible party. What it actually means when you've got a problem with a horse is there's an education problem, there's a deficit, there's a problem with the education, and it's caused this problem. Underneath the iceberg, underneath the water, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's all gone wrong, and now you've got a problem. Years ago, I was working in a big horse fair, and a lot of people coming up and saying, oh, my horse does this and my horse does that and I can't catch my pony and my pony does this. And my boss at the time, he said, oh, well, you study my program, my method, and you call me back if it doesn't get rid of the problem. Instead of just giving the person an answer. And I used to think, well, you know, why doesn't he just give the person a technique or a thing to do so that the problem goes away? 20 years later, I'm thinking, yeah, he was right. He was right. Instead of just giving a solution to say, well, this is how you fix that problem. This is the problem, that's the solution. The solution is educate your horse. Learn how to educate your horse better so that the problem goes away. We're in the 21st century. There's a lot of good horsemen out there, hundreds and hundreds of them. So if you've got problems with a horse and you're not finding solutions, and you're not looking for them, that's probably pretty irresponsible because the solutions are out there these days. I would be looking for those solutions and say, okay, who can help me with this? How do I find solutions? Because once, maybe back in the 80s when I started out in this game, not all the solutions were easy to find. The information wasn't out there, and especially the science that I'm talking about, it wasn't there. These days it's there. So before you could say, well, we didn't know any better. Now, I think if you're running into problems with your horse and you're not fixing it and you're not finding the solutions, it's kind of irresponsible because we know that the solutions are out there. The horse is getting scared in other environments. He's going too fast, don't have brakes. He's going too slow, don't have an accelerator. and all sorts of things are going wrong, and probably don't have self-carriage, which means the horse is not maintaining gait, maintaining rhythm. You're either keeping the horse going forward, which means you'll desensitize him to your legs, or you're keeping the horse back with you, which means you'll desensitize him to the brakes. So that's a rough overview of a pretty good bunch of problems. And I know it's a long video, but I see a lot on YouTube and Facebook and all of this, repairing problems, repairing problems, repairing problems. Educate the animal and the problem won't be there. The problem is the consequence of a lack of education. The problem is often don't have control of the horse's feet. If you had control of the horse's feet, the problem wouldn't be there. The problem is the consequence of a lack or a poor education. Sometimes the problem's there because the horse isn't educated at all. Sometimes it's there because he's poorly educated. But the problem is the symptom, it's not the cause. The problem is the lack of education or poor education. I find when horses are really well started, if they've got a great foundation, they don't seem to run into problems. Funny that. But when horses don't have a really solid foundation, they run into a lot of problems. So there's a fair bit to think about there, and we went through a fair few solutions, and I've given you a lot to think about in this video, and you've been brave enough to take the time to watch it all and have a little think. Now, I'm not saying that finding the solutions to all the problems is easy, but I am saying every time a problem turns up, I don't fix the problem. I go back to the basics, I redo the whole colt start program, I put the basic foundation back into the horse, maybe go a little bit further than the foundation, to put a really, really solid foundation, and then I like to see, is the problem still there? Well, most of the time, no, it isn't. If the horse has a really good foundation, the problem goes away all by itself. If the horse has really good responses to light pressures and the horse knows how to remove every pressure that I put upon him, the problem isn't there anymore. Problems come a lot from confusion and poor education. So, fair bit to think about in that video. That was a long one. And I'll be back to talk again very, very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.